Hello, welcome to the ranch. You know, if you got a few trees and bushes and shrubs and things, then you're probably doing some pruning. And those old fashioned anvil pruners and loppers and things, they can do a good job, but they're limited. You know, at some point the branch just gets a little bit bigger than what they can handle. Well, you might get out the old hand saw and saw off a bigger limb, but that might be a little bit romantic, taking out that old saw and sawing away, but it doesn't take too many 6-inch logs, and all the romance is lost from that idea. So you might be looking to upgrade to some sort of a power saw for your place. Share my thoughts with you, and maybe that can help you make a good decision for what's going to be perfect for around your little place. Now you might be thinking chainsaw or even one of them little chainsaws, and they definitely have their place. They're great. There's a lot of good ones out there. If I'm cutting down really large trees, or I'm cutting some firewood or something like that where I'm gonna do a really full day of cutting, then yeah, I might opt for that chainsaw. Or just one or two cuts. Who wants to drag out that big chainsaw and mix your gas and deal with the oil and all that? That's one of the biggest problems with the chainsaw, even the cordless ones, is that they're automatic oilers. They leak oil all over the place. Before long, you're all greasy, and it's kind of like a mechanic walking through a sawmill, and you're gonna end up all messy and whatnot. And another problem with the chainsaws, the chain can often fall off. And that's really frustrating when you only got a branch or two that needs to be lopped off. I found that a reciprocating saw can do the job just as well, fewer problems, and not grease everywhere. And that reciprocating saw can be used for other chores around your place. Now I've got this 36 volt bad boy. I can really take down some timber with this. I've taken down some pretty decent sized trees, and it's done a fine job. Now you may not need one this big, because this one, it definitely is heavy. It's, doesn't fit into some tight places. 99% of the time I can get it in somewhere, but not always. So a smaller one like this might be more in order. And usually if I'm doing PVC or a smaller branch, then I'll just use my little small 12 volt, and it's never let me down. We can get into brands of tools and things like that, and everybody's got their favorites. Everybody's got different choices. The fact is, most of them are going to do you a fine job. My view on tools is I usually try and buy the best I can afford, and also I take a look at how much I'm going to use that particular tool. If it's a one-time thing, or a few minutes a couple times a year, then maybe I won't splurge and go out for the more expensive tool. A lot of you have your own battery platforms and brands you love, and that's just great. The choice is yours. There's a lot out there. It's the actual function of these reciprocating saws that make them so versatile. Both of the saws work the same way for changing the blade. It's really very simple. Just got that little collar thing. You twist it, the blade comes out. It's that simple. same for putting in the new blade. Twist the collar and you're good to go. Now, the variety of blades makes it extra versatile for a reciprocating saw, because I can cut metal, I can cut metal, PVC, you name it, with a reciprocating saw, just by changing the blade. The majority of them are not all that expensive, so you can have a variety of blades and you don't have to feel bad about breaking one. Now, you know, this big advantage over the chainsaw, being able to cut multi-materials, is huge, because I'm always finding that I need to cut some PVC, or I might have to cut a little rebar or something like that. And with the simple blade change, I can make that a reality, and that's something that your chainsaws definitely can't handle. Now, I'm not going to be doing any fine cabinetry type work with the reciprocating saw. They're just not that precise. They do have a lot of power and good potential and a lot of versatility, making them ultimately just about the perfect saw to have around a place. Really, it all comes down to blade selection and choosing the right blade for the job. As we focus on in, you can see that this has a large aggressive tooth, and that's so it doesn't plug up with sawdust and tree residues, and also it makes a rather aggressive cut comparable to a chainsaw's. With blade quality, I'd recommend getting a decent name brand. I'm not going to promote one over the other. I would just say that maybe stay clear of those really cheap blades you can get on the internet. And make sure and watch for getting a pruning blade. It really does make a big difference with your pruning. You can see a fine tooth blade here meant for cutting metal, but it also does a really fine job with PVC and some of your other tasks. Today I'm going to be taking on this thicket of trees. It's a bit of a jungle in here, and had to fight my way in, a saw blazing, and cut away at some of these lower branches so I could get access to the trunk. These trees are about 6 to 8 inches in diameter and a good 20 feet tall, but they're a bit spindly, so it's not too bad. As I fight my way in there, you know, just be careful. Take your time. Don't need to get nobody hurt. I'm just cutting in a wedge here. There's some vegetables and planter boxes nearby, and so I want to drop this tree where it doesn't hit any of those things. Once I get that wedge cut, then I make a sloping cut into the wedge from the back side. We should start to see this tree tip, and I'm going kind of slow, just letting the weight of the tree do the work. This way I can stay safe and I can still steer a tree this size. There she is, nice and slowly down. Well, I'm kind of trapped here back in behind this jungle. Luckily I have my saw and have to fight and cut my way out of here. This is about a 6-inch log, and you can see how fairly quickly it cuts right through that main part of the log. You know, that's not much slower than the chainsaw. Just a few more cuts and we fought ourselves out of this mess, and we're back on free ground. Now we can just start carving it up into manageable sized pieces. You know, logs and long branches. It's not going to take us long now. If you note, one good thing about this saw is you can cut either direction with it. so I can turn the saw in a variety of ways and cut from different angles depending on where the pressure of the tree and the weight is going, and it makes it really handy this way. Really didn't take very long, and we made quick work of this tree. We're probably only talking about 15 minutes to have this from chopped down to manageable size pieces. Well, all we got left now is to haul off all these branches. I think our reciprocating saw did an awful fine job. Wasn't that hard, wasn't that messy. And really, this is the worst part of the whole project, is hauling off these logs and branches. I just so happen to have these little fertilizer factories, and they really love these branches. They strip off every leaf. They even eat the twigs to a reasonable size, and they strip off all the bark. This wood can dry out quicker, and then later in the year I can cut them and cut into pieces that I can use for firewood, and I've even found some uses for making some stuff out of this. So things are really full circle here. You know, from a tree that was growing in a bad place and needed to be cut down, and into a nutrient rich treat that can be enjoyed by these sheep, and then, you know, they're just putting it back in the soil. Their manure is going to fertilize our tomatoes and other vegetables, and even our trees and shrubs. Hope you found our little talk about the reciprocating saw helpful, and it helps you make a good decision for your place. So thank you for watching, and check in again on me sometime.